All right, welcome everybody to another episode of the Inside In Tennis Podcast. I'm your host, Mitch Michals, all part of the Believe Network and available on all your podcast platforms. Tennis season rages on into October. Also an opportunity to talk to some cool people, some special guests doing great things in the tennis world. And we have two for the people today. We got a great guest, great show today. One of the true titans in tennis history, two-time major champion, Hall of Famer, the man attached to the most iconic shoe in tennis and footwear history, Mr. Stan Smith, and then his longtime business partner, the president and co-founder of Stan Smith Events and co-author of the book Winning Trust, How to Create Moments That Matter. It's Gary Niebur. Gary and Stan, welcome so much to the podcast.
Hi, Mitch. How you doing?
Doing well, Stan. Gary, always, excited to meet new people, excited to chat with you as well. So thanks for coming on.
Absolutely. You too, Mitch.
So I want to start with this because, the process of writing a book and going on the tour and everything that comes with it is fascinating to me. So this book came out, Winning Trust, a little over 6 months ago or so. I remember specifically when it was, coming out and the amount of coverage it got in the tennis world and the rave reviews. But now that we've gotten to this point, Gary, I'll start with you. Has the process winded down a little bit? Now that it's winded down a little bit, have you had time to reflect and maybe catch your breath after all the stuff that comes after writing the book?
Yeah, it is quite a process that we went through for even a few years to codify kind of what we'd been doing for 30 years together. And so it was a relief and kind of joy to get it done. And it's been great to engage with people on different podcasts or TV shows and speaking. We did something recently where we did a fireside out in Las Vegas for a luxury travel company, and then I did a keynote the next day. And so it's been great to engage and see how people have responded to the content. At the U.S. Open, there was a lot as well, and so it's still been going well. It's a new process though that we've never done because it's the first book I've done with Stan. He's done a few books, so he's kind of known what to expect. But we've enjoyed it.
Yeah, Stan, how did this differ from your other book, and then also maybe stepping slightly, not fully, because there's a lot of tennis in this book, but slightly outside of the tennis bubble into the world of business?
Yeah, the other books I've done, winning doubles, modern doubles, the Stan Smith, some people think I'm a shoe. Those are all kind of tennis related. Obviously, the shoe book is really about the shoe extensively. So this is a business book. It's really for business and for hopefully personal development as well. And it's been a different process. We had a great writer that helped us with it, and got a feel for how we look at things and how we've done things and how it's affected the various companies we worked with over the years. And so it was a different process, certainly, to do this. And it was fun to see how it all, came out, actually.
Yeah, it feels like, Stan, you were everywhere. I saw you on CNBC. I saw you Tennis Channel interviewed on Sports Illustrated. And then, I think I even saw like a man in the street or woman in the street interview, too, with some younger journalists. So it seems like you were everywhere.
Yeah, that was a fun one. Are you okay? And
yeah,
she was great. And they do all sorts of graphics with it that made it kind of fun.
Yeah, and it seems like, too, and Gary, we can talk about this as well, right? Like tennis is a core component of this book. You had a pro career yourself. You played growing up. How did that help you in the business side of things where, the transition happens, you start off as a tennis player. Now you're gearing up, you're working with Stan Smith. But how did the tennis tools that you learned lay the foundation for this career?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of lessons learned through training and through going through and then coaching, actually, and mentoring players and people mentoring me and seeing that how important relationships are and building long-term relationships. When we started, transitioned from playing and doing the other things to starting the business, we thought we were helping leaders build relationships, long-term relationships, and then we discovered how important trust was in business, and that when you trust somebody, there's an ROI that comes with that. And so I learned a lot through training, but then just life experiences, and then starting this business together, which again was 30 years ago. We had an aha moment in the business where somebody came to Wimbledon for an event that we did together, and they looked at us and they said, "I've been coming to Wimbledon for 30 years, but never like this." And so this idea of
trying to create an environment where people could experience things that they couldn't get on their own, people and places and venues. That's been kind of the theme. And when you create the right environment,
Yeah.
it really helps people build trust. So, it's
Yeah.
that was the culmination of it, of starting it.
Okay. Well, it definitely seems to, and Stan, not to, there's a two part to this. So the first part makes you sound a little older, but I saw in an interview where you said you'd have to be about 55, 60 to have actually seen me play. That was the first part of it, but they're still relevant. You're still, writing books, going to all these great events, putting all these events on. It's got to be pretty cool in that sense that you're still making a difference with people that have never seen you pick up a racket.
Well, hopefully so. As
Yeah.
as I did say, you have to be a bit older to really see me play. I see kids come up and
Yeah.
ask me for autographs, and their father or mother have put them up to it, and so it's they obviously didn't see me play, but unless they saw some videos,
Yeah.
they even have some videos in color that you might have seen. But that's been it's been fun to be part of the game. With our company, we've gone to all the majors. We've helped companies entertain their clients at those majors. I've talked about my experiences certainly at being on center court of all those big events, and so that's been fun to do that. Then being involved as a president of the International Tennis Hall of Fame, we had to really keep track of how the players are doing and the nomination process and the voting process of getting players inducted. In fact, speaking of that, Roger Federer just
It's,
was announced today he's going to be one of the candidates, and I think there's a chance he might make it with the voters. You
yeah.
have to get 75% of the votes,
Yeah.
and
Yeah. It's
so
probably going to happen, I think. I think we
I
can call
think
our
it may
shot.
happen with him. But it's been great. We
Yeah.
had Sharapova and the Bryan twins just before the U.S. Open inducted in the Hall of Fame, and so those were great inclusions to
Yeah.
this great. There aren't that many. I always said when I was president that these are arguably the best players who've ever played the game, and we went back all the way back to the beginning of tennis to make sure we included all what we call the ancients. The original ones back in
Right.
92 and things like that.
Yeah, I was thinking about that too. You bring up the Hall of Fame. That's a good point. Like it seemed pretty cool. I know the big shift was there's no Newport 250 ATP event, but I thought it came out from a distance, Stan and Gary. I thought it came out pretty well done. When it was right before the U.S. Open, the lead up, I thought change is always kind of foreign and crazy. Just look at the schedule. Like people freak out about change, but I thought the Hall of Fame was well done this year. It's new time slot.
It certainly was well attended. They had kind of a clinic aspect to it where people could. It was an opportunity to play with some of the Hall of Famers, and so people did that. And they had a concert after the induction ceremony, and it was. I was surprised that the attendance was quite good, and the tournament actually turned out pretty well too. It was right the second week of Wimbledon, which was kind of odd. And it was pretty similar field than
Yeah,
the year before when it was held the week after Wimbledon because,
yeah.
you only have about 16 players left starting that Monday, the second week of Wimbledon. So all the other players that are out that wanted to play on grass got to play.
It's really exciting to see. Love the women's event there. It's nice to break the mold with that. And Gary, looking at this partnership, you mentioned how the business started, but I want to know too, and I think the listeners want to know too, how did the relationship start? How did the paths of Stan Smith and Gary Niebur cross for the first time? And was it similar to tennis, like finding a good doubles partner where you knew you had something pretty early on?
Yeah, we had met through an event that a trip to Korea actually before the Olympics in Seoul in '88. We went over with a group of tennis professionals and did some clinics and played some exhibitions, and it had a faith element to it, so that was nice. We had a group of people that there was a chapel program that Stan helped get started on the tour, and so we met through that. And then we did. I don't know if you're familiar with Young Life, but we did a couple of Young
Uh,
Life camps together that Stan had been involved with, and he invited me to join him and his family to do something for some kids. And then it was that I had after coaching at Georgia Tech as an assistant for a couple of years, I started a business where I worked with families, pretty high net worth families who had courts in their homes, and I took them to Wimbledon to have these experiences. And so one of those families, that he was the CEO of a company, he asked us to do an event together, and that's where it really started, and it has been a unique partnership in that Stan, you might know this about him or not, but he has a very strategic mind. He thinks through things, the details, and really how he makes people feel. He really wants people to have a good experience. So we really think through everything and
Yeah.
all those details, which is part of the one of the acronyms in the book. And he really cares and stays with him and builds the relationship. And so it's really gone well because we're wired, very different in that way in a relationship, and so they complement each other.
Yeah, you don't beat Natase, right, in Wimbledon without thinking things through.
Yeah, you don't want to think too much when you're playing against him. Could drive you crazy.
Yeah. No, it's a cool organic story, right? Like it seems like the foundation. I bring that to tennis too, by saying you have to have that foundation in place before you can accomplish big things, as is the case with the book and the other endeavors that you are both a part of. And before we get to the book, Stan, I know the academy is the Smith Stearns Academy is important to you. While you're on here, I got to give a shout out to one of the prize students, JJ Tracy. I mean, what he did at the U.S. Open was pretty cool. I know you had to be beaming. You're smiling right now, but U.S. Open doubles semifinalist, Ohio State national champ. But he's grown a lot, and it started under the tutelage of yourself, the Smith Stearns Academy.
Yeah, it's been fun to keep up with him, and I have the last 2 years kind of helped to get organized with some Adidas clothes, and when they were playing the U.S. Open, and then was there when they got to the finals of Newport last year, and then this year I've kept in touch with them as they played, and of course they had a great run again at the U.S. Open. So it's been fun to see both he and Robert, continue to work hard and put their magic together. And they're a heck of a team now. They're now an established team. They're not rookies anymore.
Yeah, I'm sure leaning on you would be partly, how to deal with the life of a pro tennis player, something that you've experienced. But it all came back to the academy, Stan. And I did want to ask you, there's so many academies, a lot of people, a lot of men and women doing great work. Do you think your academy has anything unique about it? Is there an approach that might be different, how you approached running a tennis academy versus others?
Well, first of all, we have the academy at Sea Pines Resort, which is a special place on its own. I've been a touring pro for over 50 years there. We started the academy 23 years ago, 2002, and we have a model that's maybe a little different than others. We have sessions in the morning and the afternoon for those that are not at a regular school situation. Although the school that we work with mainly is the Hilton Head Prep, and they've organized their schedule so kids can go to the morning practice and then go to school, then go to the afternoon practice, and then, of course, as in most academies today, a lot of the kids are online students, and so we've helped with that, and then we've got a couple houses. We got house parents that work with these kids and help them, bring them back and forth to practice and to doctor's appointments, the airport, and so we're really excited about this year. We've got a really strong group of 14 and 15-year-olds that are some of the best players in the nation, actually. And it's great to see them compete against each other. And we have Wednesdays and Saturdays where we have competition where they're playing matches. And then the other days we do some point play as well as the drills and that sort of thing. So we found that, in Europe, a lot of the players are playing more than in the U.S. drilling too much. And so we try to get into a situation they play a bit more and help them try to figure it out on their own, because that is the ultimate thing. We want them to become independent players, both on and off the court too. So hopefully it's really fun to see a guy like JJ or, Jesse Pegula, who was there for 7 years, to see them go on to the pros and do something positive for society, not just their tennis, but Jesse's become a leader of the WTA and is really well respected for the way she handles herself both on and off the court.
Developing problem solvers, match toughness, but also, independent, paths to greatness. Pegula was a little later. You've had people rise early. It's very cool to see as we move along here with Stan Smith and Gary Niebur here on the Inside in Tennis podcast. And talking about the book that you guys put out, Winning Trust, How to Create Moments That Matter. Gary, we knew the business, and you said events were where it started. You had something special, but the idea to put pen to paper can be very tricky too, right? How to, not just the business you do, but how to explain it to other people. Where did the concept for actually writing a book come from?
Yeah, that's a great question, Mitch. The concept was really around developing a playbook and codifying what we do. And we realized, again, as I shared earlier, it was really about trust. And that if you can create an environment that can accelerate trust in your most important relationships, that's going to help drive their business. And we also realized that trust is not just important in business relationships, but personally. So the book, we used a tennis term, serve, to codify. And it's a tennis term, but it's also a hospitality term because we're a hospitality company. And so I can go through that briefly, just in that serve is the acronym, strategize is the first word. And so when you get together as a team and you come up with the hook and the strategy that's going to get them in the environment and that's going to create the environment, that helps win trust with your team, and it helps win trust with your client, because you got to get with the client and explain what you're trying to do. So around these events, we get with our client after we come up with a strategy, and we share it with them, and we listen to them to hear what's important to them in their work and what they're trying to do. And that helps set the tone for the event. And then the E in serve is for engage. And that's really, to build trust. If you lead with transaction and a person feels that your relationship is all about a transaction, it's a transaction relationship, trust isn't going to be built very quick, is it? So if you engage with the whole person, you care about people, you get to know them, which is what happens in these environments, then that's where trust is really built. And so you lead with engaged. Transaction is obviously part of business. That needs to follow, and it will follow if people trust you. The R is for recreate. So we recreate in our environments. We create, these tennis challenges, putting challenges, depending on where we are. Axe throwing. Stan and Davis Love did an axe throwing competition with guests. Nobody got hurt.
That's good.
It was good, but we had fun with that. We do recreating, and the reason we recreate is that it builds this bond through a fun and shared experience. When you have fun with each other, when you have these memorable things that are set up, then trust is built there. And really, that's the book. Just to pause before I go to the V. The book has application at the end of each chapter. So on the recreate side, there's ideas around your family and your marriage where you can recreate together, because if you're having fun together, if you're playing together, then trust will be built that way too. So the V is the next word for volley, which is, you mentioned earlier, helping these tennis players problem solve and figure it out on the court.
Yeah.
Well, you got to problem solve in business, and you're going to run into situations where you need to have good problem solving skills. And so volleying is about rallying ideas back and forth in order to find the best solution. We learned it through a guy named Danny Meyer, who started Shake Shack, who did the forward to the book. And he really came up with the concept. But that whole idea of getting in a room where you trust each other and you share solutions in order, to problem solve and come up with the right answers. The E is for elevate, which has two parts to it. So the first one is about the details. So in order to elevate an experience and create the right environment, you got to take care of the details. If you miss the details, trust isn't going to be built very well. Right. So that's the first part. The second part has been a signature part of what we do as well, and that is coming up with ideas, thinking outside the box, kind of going the extra mile to under promise, over deliver, and come up with solutions and ideas like behind the scenes tours at major events, or access to people that they couldn't get, or having the speaker who's in the room really go above and beyond and engage with the guests around their talk, or stay longer and sit for dinner or lunch and really engage around the table. And so it's that whole idea of really people coming to something and getting more than they thought they were going to receive. And so when you apply serve to the whole framework there, it helps accelerate trust in those relationships. So that's kind of where the concept came from.
It makes total sense. And you think about different, problem solving, that you're talking to people in different industries that have different sets of circumstances, problems, goals they want to achieve. So it's tough to write a book that is going to apply to so many different industries and types of people, whether it's Fortune 100 companies, nonprofits, whatever it may be. But Stan, one of the
We've
tenets,
had the opportunity to really learn a lot from these executives we dealt with. We dealt with a lot of the top people in the company, and they've shared their philosophy about relationships, about their the model that they've used in their companies, and so we found some real common threads in that, and that the great leaders do get very involved with their relationships, within their company. And so I would say we learned probably more than they learned from us.
Yes.
So that's been a great benefit for us.
But I like the lesson, maybe the most, that it is in this book, and it ties into tennis, is that it's ongoing, right? Like, you can have success, but a tennis player can win a major. That doesn't mean the work is over. There's always a process. You're always trying to get better. And I think, Gary, you can speak to this too, right? Like, there's people that can't handle failure, but there's also people that struggle handling success, and what to do next is a huge issue that people in every industry have to deal with.
Yeah, you're right. Well, there's two sides of it. There's the side of, you said failure. I mean, we make mistakes,
Yeah.
and that's talked about in the book. We do this chapter called Second Serve. Everybody needs a second serve, because you do make a mistake, and you if you care about trust, if you care about people, and whether you win or lose, if you care about doing the right thing, the whole idea of integrity and wanting to do the best thing for the other person, and that, through success and failure, people see that. They see through really typically where you're coming from. And so if you do make a mistake and you care about winning trust, we believe that, people are going to give you another chance. And we've seen that happen, because there are mistakes that get made. But even in success, it's important. You can learn so much. And you still have to keep remembering, what's the right thing to do? What's the next best thing we can do each time?
You have
Yeah.
to define what success is, and that's what I tell the kids each day. Is that success is not necessarily winning and losing matches, or winning matches. It's really working. And you mentioned, Mitch, the process of going through each day, trying to get better and to figure out what your weaknesses are, and then make those improvements. So at the end of the year, you may not have won some matches, but you've improved in a certain area that you've figured out, so that that is what's satisfying. And you get to the finals of a major, you may not win it, but if you've played better and improved and figured out different things in your game,
Yeah.
then that makes a difference. And that's what's satisfying. It's not just the actual W's that you get along the way.
It ties into something else that I think is a core component, of this book, is that life's all about moments. And you look back, whether it's Stan, your tennis career, Gary, your business career, moments you've shared together, it's not so much about the results, you said, the wins and losses, but you look back the most fondly at those moments, sometimes bad, but sometimes just what you put yourself through to get there. That's what's ultimately remembered and what you take the most pride in.
Well, we've had opportunities at Wimbledon, for instance, or the U.S. Open. We might have a dinner afterwards, and immediately after being in an exciting match, with Federer and Nadal in the finals, or Sampras winning in that match that finished after dark, we all went to this restaurant together, and that was a moment that all of our guests will remember, and that's sort of the key. If we can hopefully provide that in each one of our events, then we're doing our job.
Yeah. And Gary, how's the feedback been? It's got great reviews, the book, but how's the feedback been? Have you heard from people maybe in industries or outside the box that you weren't really expecting to hear from?
Yeah, that's a great question. We have, and that's probably been the most encouraging, is
Yeah.
people have shared in different industries, whether it's the travel industry, restaurant industry, business, just different businesses, to see them try on the framework of serve and say, here's how I can apply it in my relationships. I need to work, even personally. It's a challenge, because you wrote about it, and you're saying, okay, how do I listen better? how do I, work through these different things with your team? But different people have sent text messages, emails, have commented on some of the social media things, have come to some of our book signings and said, I read the book and it's really helped me to look at things in a different way and to try to apply the serve to it. And I even do it in one-on-one mentoring sessions with people. It's fun for us to take the framework and not look at how does it apply to events, but how does it apply to somebody applying for a job? They're in college. And how can they win trust with a company that they're just starting with in order to rise up the ladder and be valued as a member on a team? And so, and then the other favorite part is when people say, I read the challenge to apply it to your family, to your marriage situation. We actually applied it to our families in that we did a little event for the Smith and Niebur family
Yeah.
at the US Open where we had everybody come together and we recreated, we had some meals together, we had some different experiences to where we built trust with the two families around a day at the US Open or an overnight. And so there's
Yeah.
opportunities to apply this in different areas. But yeah, it's been encouraging, the feedback.
That'd be a fun time, right? Staying at this year's U.S. Open, doing the events, and then every U.S. Open's fun. I feel like it keeps topping itself, but the spectacle just keeps getting bigger and bigger from way back when you played.
They've certainly done some things this year. Of course, that
Yeah,
mixed doubles, the first week of the 3 week
yeah,
extravaganza was a big change, and certainly brought some interest in the fans to see these singles players, these great singles players whose names they know, playing doubles and mixed doubles at that as well. So that was interesting, and it has gotten bigger and better, and you're seeing the fans loving the opportunity to see the outside courts and to see some of their favorite players, the young ones coming along that are doing well.
goes back to the ancients, as you called them, right? Like they laid the groundwork, and then everyone just keeps standing on their shoulders and getting to this point.
Well, I encourage the players, the pros I see, to remember those guys that led the way. I remember guys like Laver and Rosewall that are 8, 9, 10 years older than I, Stolly, Emerson, that really did this barnstorming, and you've probably seen that
Yeah,
barnstorming video. But it's those guys did lay the groundwork, and then certainly with the women coming on in 1973 with that 9 of them getting signing contracts for $1. That started the women's tour, and it's and that's been fun to see both the men and the women's tours doing
yeah,
well. And they're actually more of these 9 tournaments have both men and women in them, as well as, of course, the majors. So it is a family affair. So it'll be interesting to see if you took a poll of who the players that the fans have come to see at the U.S. Open. Is it the men or the women? Or would they say we really like it because they're both there and we want to see both? So that's an interesting question out there.
yeah. It seems like, and Gary, you can speak to this too, right? It comes in waves. Like there's gonna be the all time greats. There's gonna be the names that take over the sport, and it's gonna be ebbing and flowing. But the overall product of tennis, in terms of depth, I think has never been better. Like you're gonna see great tennis at all across the grounds. U.S. Open, you can go to like court 17 and just see a great match. I think the depth of the game is on another level.
Yeah, the depth of the game and with the two guys now and the rivalry there, and then Ben Shelton coming in, the excitement that he brings on the court. You're right, it is getting more exciting. And then on the women's side, obviously with Coco and the others and the rivalries, there's some
Yeah,
new rivalries. But the other part that's gotten better is the hospitality side. I mean,
yeah,
the tournaments are all trying to figure it out. And Stan mentioned it with doing the mixed doubles. Now they're turning into a 3 week event
yeah,
and they're figuring out. I mean, the US Open is transforming the stadium this year. They literally went to work, I think, a week after the tournament to change the
yeah.
whole
Right.
suites and club experiences and things like that you're going to see because the customer experience is so important in the environment that they create. And so the combination of that, and then even on TV with tennis channels coverage, and I get up and at different times, whether it's in
Yeah,
the matches right now in China. I mean, it's nice to turn on and see some really good tennis, and
yeah.
you're able to really access a lot. through the different environments that are created through TV and on site.
Absolutely.
Jesse
Couple more.
Pegula's up 6-3, 5-all in
Uh-oh.
Beijing
Yeah,
right now. So
she
hopefully
is.
she'll
That yeah,
finish that off.
they had late matches in Beijing. I was, getting up on the West Coast, saw that they hadn't even started that match. I was like, whoa, this is, but that's tennis. It's a global. It truly is a global game, all around the world. A couple more things with Stan Smith and Gary Niebur here on the Inside in Tennis podcast, talking to the authors of Winning Trust: How to Create Moments That Matter. Stan, I did want to ask you too. The documentary "Who Is Stan Smith" that was released a couple years ago, now available in the last couple months streaming across the U.S. So, it's great that this story is out to the masses. But is it, in your perspective, is interesting? Is it a little interesting / weird that maybe some of the mystery is gone, that people kind of now know who you are more than just the intrigue?
Well, I've never been a mystery, but it is amazing to see what that's done, because it does cover some ground, and anybody that's interested in the history of tennis, not only what tennis, but we dwell on 1968 when Arthur Ashe won the U.S. Open, and the first U.S. Open, and what was going on during that time with Vietnam and with Martin Luther King and Kennedy, and also just some of the other aspects of the game that a lot of people don't know much about. So that it's been fun. This PC Richard and Sons has sponsored my documentary, and it's on Hulu and ESPN Plus, and it's been on Delta Airlines the last 3 months. And people have come up to me and said, "Gee, I was on this flight from Europe coming back home and saw the documentary. I didn't know, this or that." And so it does reveal some aspects of, obviously, of my life that a lot of people don't know about.
Yeah, shout out to Delta. That's actually where I watched it. So nice Delta
Yeah, it
flight.
looks like it might be on Virgin Atlantic. I just got a note the other day, it's starting in December. It might be on that as well. So if you get bored on your flights, it's something to look at.
I mean, it's good to see the man behind the tennis, not just the shoe, but the tennis player too. And Gary, like someone that knows Stan, obviously, it's pretty cool when you have documentaries that tell the person behind the athlete or whatever it may be in any entertainment or any other industry.
Yeah, in the documentary, it's really neat to see, especially Margie, Stan's wife, and their relationship, and how important family is, and how that there's different sacrifices they've made over the years. Stan, obviously, you maybe ask this, I might be taking away your next question, but just taking a stand after winning
Yeah.
Wimbledon with the boycott. But Margie traveling and homeschooling the kids, and then they have 17 grandkids now, and then just the character, the decisions that he made, the relationships he valued with Arthur, and what happened in South Africa with Mark Matabani, and all those things are really, people don't really weren't aware of that. So that really, it stands right that his earlier years really came out a little bit on the academy later, and I think I was in there maybe 3 seconds on the business, but and what I said was true. What his character and who he is as a person is pretty remarkable. So it has been neat to see that's celebrated in the documentary.
Yeah, there was, the lighter part of it too. I love the focus staying on the courtship. That was really well done. Just how the
Yeah,
courtship happened. You look back at how you handle things, and you have to be a little proud. Like, yeah, that was a good strategy.
yeah, it was it's a bit of a love story.
Yeah, yeah,
And we actually played in some similar tournaments like in
yeah,
Philadelphia during the summer. We got to date each other a little bit. It's tough when you're on the tour to have
right.
a dating relationship, and you see now Dee Manera and Katie Bolter. They're playing some of
Yeah.
the similar tournaments together, and getting a chance to get to see each other in a more
Yeah.
natural situation, rather than trying to put some puzzles together and try to figure out how
Right.
to spend time.
Were you looking back? I mean, it's been a while, obviously, but did you ever feel like it was, a little dangerous with some of the trips you made or some of the sacrifices or stands you took? I mean, looking back, it's hard to put yourself back into that time frame, but you put yourself out there at a time that it wasn't necessarily safe to do so.
The boycott at Wimbledon was a tough one, as defending champion and playing some of my best tennis. But we were establishing this ATP, and and hopefully the players appreciate what we did early on to get the ATP started and to stand up for what we believed in. Certainly going to Vietnam, we went there twice. Arthur was in the Army. I was not in the Army at that time. I later, 2 years later, went in the Army, but that was certainly a tough place. We did several State Department tours. The Davis Cup teen guys, Arthur and Charlie Passerell and Bob Lutz and Jim Osborne, Donald Dell was our captain. And so we did these State Department tours, which players don't do too much today. And we got to see a little bit of the world aside from just the stadium and the hotel that, when you're playing in tournaments.
Right.
And so we got a feel for what was happening out there. And certainly going to Vietnam during the war was eye-opening and made us, plenty aware of what was going on in the U.S. and outside the U.S.
Yeah, it definitely seems even in the current day, Gary, like players love tennis for a lot of different reasons. The travel side and getting to see the world, which, as Stan just said, can be great. You can do great things, but also can open your eyes at things that you might be sheltered with and that you wouldn't see without the game of tennis.
Yeah, you're right. You get that whole experience, but that's how you grow up and you learn how to problem solve and develop relationships. You get to meet so many people and see so much. So I think grateful for the time that I had for a couple of years traveling, and then our travels together have been super meaningful opportunities to get to know people and
Yeah,
learn other cultures and have a little bit more of a world perspective and
right.
appreciation, especially today. I mean, this whole thing with trust is
Yeah,
Stan says it a lot. It's a diminishing asset, and there's a lot going on in the world, and so it's important to understand each other and give each other grace and accept people from different cultures and backgrounds. And
yeah,
I think traveling and
yeah.
having those opportunities on the tour, you can get into some challenging situations, but I'm grateful
Gary
for all the
liked playing on the cow
opportunities.
dung in India. That was his
Yeah.
favorite surface, I think. So,
Yeah, I was with a guy recently who couldn't believe that there was actually, I played in a stadium in Bangalore, and I told him, guess the surface. And he said clay, and he said hard. He said it wasn't grass, was it? I said, no, it was cow dung, and he didn't believe me. So I won a bet. He
That's
he
yeah.
called the Davis Cup, he called the former Davis Cup captain from India to verify that it was cow dung.
Yeah, I'm not the biggest conspiracy guy, but it's hard to really believe that actually happened. And I was looking back to like not just the cow dung surface, but I saw a match from the 70s on YouTube that was pretty grainy, Stan, but it was like a parquet floor. It looked like they were playing where the Boston Celtics play. It was the floor. I couldn't believe the surfaces you guys played tennis on.
yeah, they're plastic squares that they attached together, and it actually worked pretty well. Although when I was playing Rosewall in the finals of the very first Masters, it was in
Yeah.
Tokyo, and the couple of squares came apart when I was serving for the match, and
Oh,
it was on the side of the court. It wasn't really in the actual 78 feet, but Rosewall said we can't play until they fix this, and so he literally froze me because it was about 40 degrees in the stadium, and we had to stop for about 15 minutes before I served for the match to win the Masters. So those we
wow.
experiment with different surfaces. We had the Supreme Courts, and
Yeah,
each week they'd have a different speed and different texture, and
yeah.
so we went through some experimentation early on.
Well, this has been a blast, Gary Niebur, Stan Smith, talking to two fine established gentlemen in the world of tennis. The last thing before I let you guys go, before I let you go, Stan, it has to still amaze you, the collaborations and the relevance of the Stan Smith Adidas shoe, especially the high-end collaborations. Like, that's the part where you couldn't probably have dreamed that in the 70s, that not only is this going to be relevant, but we're going to talk high-end, biggest names in fashion want to be a part of what Stan Smith can offer as a shoe.
Well, it's been fun to work with Pharrell Williams and Stella McCartney, and Ralph Simmons was quite involved early on. Um, so what I love is to see these so-called celebrities and names that you might know wear the shoe because they just like it, and they're
Yeah.
not getting paid to do it, and so that has been a fun experience for me for over 50 years now.
Do you have, because I have to ask you this, outside of the traditional white and green, do you have a favorite colorway?
Well, I like
personally?
the old blue suede shoes. We had a blue
Ooh.
suede with a red in the back, but we've got another. Edison Chen is the latest one that we're doing something with, and he's done a really cool design that has these integrals on the side, sides of the sole of the shoe, and that
Mhm.
is pretty neat. So we've done things
Yeah.
with Dime and with Bape, the bathing
Mhm.
ape, shoes, and so those the key to the whole thing has been these collaborations with various designers and and athletes.
Very exciting. Very happy to see it's still relevant for infinity, it seems like.
You
Gary and
got to
Stan,
get
this
some
has
of
been,
these Edison Chens. They're really neat. The
oh,
leather's so soft and it's like a slipper.
nice. I'll start saving up. I'll start saving up.
Yeah, you may have to
Gary,
save up. I think they're
yeah,
another $20
yeah,
more than the regular ones. But that's the
yeah,
other thing that's been a fairly good
yeah.
price point for people. It's not
It has.
$350.
Well, what's next for Stan
Right.
Smith events, Gary, and the book? Will there be another one? What are we looking at? What's on the horizon? You guys have some momentum here.
Yeah, no, we just enjoying really engaging with people on the book and seeing them engage and hoping that they're encouraged and challenged with it to apply it to their business relationships and to their family and personal lives. And so it's we're just grateful for what we've had for 30 years
Yeah.
and our next event we have actually we're doing an event down at Palmetto Bluff for a group that are going to take a boat over to Stan's house for dinner.
Mm.
And we do usually golf, tennis with them, and so we have an event in a few weeks here around that.
Awesome. Awesome.
Well, we'll be
That
headed to
should be.
Australia in January again, and we've done that for almost 30 years now. So
Mm.
it's fun to play there when we're playing on grass, and now, of course, that event has become huge. And
Yeah.
it's a 3-week event, and Greg Tiley has done an unbelievable job in making that event so special for all the people from Melbourne, all the people around the
Yeah.
world. Actually,
Yeah.
will go down there and visit.
Well, I think one of the goals, one of my goals should be, and I'll try my best to do it, is to get Stan in another rap song. It's been a while, so we got to get you in another rap song.
Yeah, Jay-Z did a good job with it, and of course, Run DMZ did a great
Yeah.
job with the Superstar shoe.
Yeah.
It's fun to do something with him as
Yeah.
well. It's Daryl
Yeah.
was great.
We'll talk to
Yeah,
Pharrell on that one too, for sure. But Gary Niebur, Stan Smith, thanks so much for taking time to appear on the Inside in Tennis podcast. Once again, the book's Winning Trust, How to Create Moments That Matter, available on Amazon and other locations that you can buy books. But Gary and Stan, thanks for coming on the show. Really appreciate it.
thanks, Mitch.
Nice seeing you, Mitch. Take
Son.
care.
That
Get
was
that
Gary Niebur.
forehand.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll work on it. We'll work on it. That was Gary Niebur. That was Stan Smith. We appreciate them for being on the Inside in Tennis podcast. Again, all part of the Believe Network, available where podcasts are found. Go to Apple, Spotify, iHeart, or Amazon. Click subscribe so you can automatically download and follow the YouTube channel where you can subscribe at Mitch Michals for the full video episode as well. We're back next week, more tennis to discuss. For Gary Niebur and Stan Smith, my name is Mitch Michals. This was the Inside in Tennis podcast. Thank you for listening, and I'll talk to you soon.